Good afternoon, everyone. As Paul's indicated, my name is Donna Davis, and I'm the project manager for the Cogswell Redevelopment Project. I'm delighted to be here today to provide you with an update on the project, and more importantly, the preliminary results from our recent public engagement initiative, one which focused on the public spaces and design, building design aspects of the project. But before getting into the exciting details from the public engagement sessions, I would like to provide a brief overview of how we got to where we are today, particularly for those who are not that familiar with the project. The Cogswell Interchange includes approximately 22 acres of land immediately north of the downtown of Halifax and east of what is known as the north end of the city. It's bordered by Cornwallis Street in the north and historic properties in the south. The Cogswell Interchange is a visible reminder of an era accompanying post-World War II suburban growth in Halifax, and it was part of a much larger project, Harbour Drive, a multi-lane freeway planned to run along Halifax's waterfront the entire length of the peninsula. Now, the interchange was built during Halifax's urban renewal era and resulted in isolating the north end from the downtown and displacing the area residents, as you can see on the right side of the screen. But it was public concern about the heritage destruction, and in particular the potential destruction of what we know affectionately today as historic properties, that eventually halted the completion of Harbour Drive, but not before the Cogswell Interchange was actually built in the early 1970s. Now today, Cogswell remains as an underutilized single-purpose orphan piece of transportation infrastructure, often described as the road to nowhere. There's been much discussion about its removal actually, and in fact, we've always been talking about tearing it down and replacing it since the first day that it was completed. And interestingly enough, we're not alone in this quest to actually fix or right some of our urban renewal mistakes. We look to Vancouver and their viaduct project, we look to Montreal and their Bonaventure project, and we also look to Toronto and their Spaghetti Junction in Etobicoke, all very, very similar projects. But the real impetus to do something about the Cogswell Interchange really came in 2009, when the municipality adopted a vision for these lands through its Downtown Halifax Secondary Municipal Planning Strategy. The vision in that plan states that the dismantling of the Cogswell Interchange will enable the transformation of the area into a coherent and appealing mixed-use precinct that will serve to reconnect the downtown with the north end, providing a compelling northern gateway and accommodate a significant density of office, commercial, and residential uses. It goes on to say that the development of contemporary landmark towers of signature architectural quality will enhance and update the downtown skyline, and that these densities will be supported by a network of pedestrian-scale blocks framed by high-quality streetscapes and public spaces. And new streets and improved alignments will ensure pedestrian connections to the waterfront and to the North End neighbourhoods. Now, the vision statement then goes on to say that we need to develop a Cogswell Interchange Area Master Plan, and that should be undertaken. And in fact, in 2013, that is in fact what happened, when the municipality engaged Acoustics Plan and Design, a local design company, to develop the master plan for this area. Now, input from a significant public engagement session, affectionately known as the Cogswell Shake-Up, held in May of 2013 and involving approximately 500 people, served to confirm the direction of the master plan exercise. In May of 2014, our regional council adopted the Cogswell Lands Plan as the area master plan for Cogswell, and the specific objectives endorsed by regional council as part of that plan included that first it should be a walkable and transit-oriented neighbourhood, that the densities there should support increased use of transit. It was also a major objective to reconnect the neighbourhoods that I talked about, the northern neighbourhoods, the areas to the west, to both the downtown and to the waterfront. Thirdly, to reestablish the fine-grained street grid of the downtown that had basically been obliterated by the construction of the interchange, as well as to include well-designed private and public spaces within the new neighbourhood. It was proposed that it will be a mixed-use core, residential being a priority, but of course ensuring that we have commercial uses to support that new neighbourhood, a neighbourhood that may be actually comprised of approximately 2,500 people. Prioritization of active transportation is key, and last but not least, that there should be a renewable energy district as part of the project. So based on these objectives, staff were directed to take that 2014 Cogswell Land Plan and initiate the detailed design, and at 60% return back to Regional Council for a review and sign-off. In essence, we were told to confirm whether the concept plan could be built and to let council know what the business case looked like. So in June 5th of this year, the 60% concept plan was in fact approved by Regional Council. This is a picture of it here. The plan finalizes the layout of the street network, the relocated and new underground infrastructure, the resulting development blocks, the alignment of active transportation components, and confirmed the placement of parks, the urban square, plazas, and the possibility of including privately owned, publicly accessible spaces, or POPs, within the development. It was explained to Council at that time that the design of the public spaces was still very conceptual and required substantial additional work between 60 and 90%. And similarly, it was explained that the design provisions for new buildings had not yet been tackled. Consequently, part of Council's approval of the design was to request staff to undertake the following: additional engagement through a collaborative process led by staff, but involving key stakeholders, the community, and potentially external design experts that will result in recommendations for Council respecting the final district public realm design and detailed land use policy. Regional Council recognized the design of the public realm and the relationship of the public spaces to the buildings and their design are key to truly realizing the vision for the district. To elevate the plan from merely a functional design, showing where things are going to be located and essentially how big they are, to the all-important elements of design, regarding how are we actually going to feel here? How can we ensure we're going to enjoy the space? How can we make it fun, lively, and a place where we want to be? They also recognize the consultation should be broad-based, involving citizens from across the municipality. And to help us with this, we engaged Fowler, Bald & Mitchell, a local architectural firm, to develop a robust engagement plan and carry it out in conjunction with ourselves and our urban design company, WSP, based in Toronto. One of the things FBM are well known for is the engagement process that was used in the design of this great building that we're sitting in today. Now, also as part of the process, we became quite excited about the opportunity to collaborate with the Downtown Halifax Business Association and stakeholders on what we're calling the GEL initiative. And we're delighted to have GEL, a renowned urban design firm, play a constructive role in helping us to complete the 90% plan. I now want to spend the rest of the time that I have with you sharing with you the details of the engagement process, but more importantly, some of the exciting ideas that have surfaced from the session. Now, the engagement took place over the last 3 months, starting in August and lasting until October, and a variety of activities were involved in that process. I'm not going to go into those in detail, but I do want to highlight a couple. The first one being focus groups. I'm really excited and very proud of the fact that a component of the engagement involved talking to a number of underrepresented groups within the community, within this neighborhood. The African Nova Scotian community, the Mi'kmaq community, and Shelter Nova Scotia. And those were really insightful and interesting conversations. And it was clear that the Mi'kmaq community and the African Nova Scotian community are in fact very interested in this project. They're also very interested in seeing a presence in this project. And so those decisions are ongoing, or discussions are ongoing, and we're really excited about where that may take us. I was also excited about the fact that we undertook a design charrette, a 4-day design charrette. I had not been involved in one before, and it was an absolutely amazing experience. All of our sessions were sold out, and between 30 and 50 people came together in the various sessions and worked really diligently, and a large number of them stayed the whole entire time, and Peter in the front row here is actually one of those. But in terms of the total interactions through this engagement process, there was well over 1,500 forms of interaction, whether it be online, in person, or whatever, through this process. We also included, thanks to FBM, and I wish we had done this a couple of years ago, developed a 3D model, which was a very effective tool in terms of helping to explain the design to date and to engage the public in terms of the public spaces that we're talking about and the building design discussions. In terms of the charrette itself, it consisted of 6 sessions, 5 of which deal with the public spaces that need further designing within the development, and one of the sessions dealt with starting to delve into the ideas around the urban design and the building designs themselves. In terms of the public space opportunities, following in Ethan's presentation, we not only have 10 great opportunities, we actually have 11 great opportunities within Cogswell. And I just want to go through those very quickly with you. So starting here in the bottom end of the eastern boundary of the project, this is the Barrington Greenway, where we're taking back 9 meters of the traveled way of the street and converting it to public space, bi-directional bikeway, separated sidewalk, and set within 2 boulevarded sets of boulevarded street trees, which is really exciting. A similar design for the Cogswell Greenway, which extends from the Barrington Greenway up to Barrington, or Brunswick Street, and has the potential of actually continuing on to the Halifax Commons. Connections to the waterfront are really important. We've identified 4 major potential connections, and maybe even 5, which were subject to conversation. A multi-use trail that borders the western part of the project boundary, starts in the north here, continues along, follows the Cogswell Greenway, comes through the Transit Plaza, and then into this significant urban square known as Granville Square and Ordnance Plaza. And of course, that is a major urban square green space that is flanking the southern part of the development. Another pocket park, which we had lots of conversation about, is located in the midpoint of the project. And then, of course, the green space park known as Poplar Park in the northern part of the project. Sidewalks throughout the entire development were up for conversation. Are they wide enough? Are they interesting enough? Do they facilitate public gathering? Do they facilitate, strong public interest? Similarly, lots of diverse conversation around POPs and whether or not we should have them or not. And last but not least, the gateways. Both of the roundabouts, which are part of the street network, serve as placemaking gateways. And of course, we have a gateway entrance on Cogswell Street itself. So in terms of the process, we took those 11 opportunities for creating great public spaces. We worked in table sessions. We used that base map. Ideas were generated at all of the tables. There was reporting back. Those were then consolidated at the end of each of those sessions. And that occurred over a very intensive 2-day period, including working into the evenings. And then the following day, we basically had an expo for gathering additional feedback on all of those ideas. So what I'd like to do right now is share with you some of those ideas. In terms of walking, cycling, and transit hub, a lot of people were very excited about the active transportation components within the project. And in terms of the transit hub, there were some great ideas brought forward. Simplifying transit and making it easier to use was certainly one of the ideas. In the transit hub itself, which is focused on Barrington Street and Bell Street, as you see it there, let's make sure that we have exciting, active building frontages in that particular area. And instead of our buses just spending time and waiting here until they actually start their routes, maybe we actually should remove them and put them up on Albemarle Street, for example, to make that a more effective and efficient transit hub. In all sessions, connecting to the waterfront was really important, and there's a whole variety of ideas that have come forward, both in this session and you'll hear in one of the other sessions, about gateway and wayfinding opportunities to actually bring people from this area and from the neighborhood to the north into the waterfront area. Supporting pedestrian activity and movement through this entire neighborhood was identified as a priority, and in some cases, some additional crossings and pedestrian crossings and improving the ones planned were talked about. And of course, connecting the north end to the new neighborhood was an enduring theme, and one of the major directions that was suggested here was that not only should Cogswell Greenway be constructed to Brunswick Street, but there is strong support for the continuation of that greenway and bikeway all the way to the Halifax Commons. There was also discussion about, and this is a major area where we need to do some more thinking about, and that is how can we, with these new street connections, both Proctor and Cornwallis, really facilitate that linkage to the Gottingen Street neighborhood. History and commemoration, a variety of topics were talked about how in this particular area we could celebrate history and commemoration. We talked about ways to commemorate the story of the urban renewal activity that has gone on here, the freeway plan itself and the fact that it was stopped, These could be conveyed through ideas of, say, the photos of the original neighborhood, keeping a piece of the interchange as a Berlin Wall moment, for example, or even going so far as keeping a large part of the interchange, believe it or not, as an elevated park. Now, as I mentioned, we met with the African Nova Scotian community and have several conversations with the Mi'kmaq community. And again, what was very clear to us and clear to them is that their presence in this area, which they've occupied for a very, very long time, is not known, is not seen. And they see this as a huge opportunity and a really exciting opportunity for them to become involved in making that presence known. So we're pretty excited about that. We also touched on a number of topics of history relating to the water treatment plant itself. Here, we could talk about, the original shoreline of the harbor and of course, our military history. With D&Ds being so close. And we also discussed a variety of ways in which that commemoration could happen, through small and large art projects, civic asset naming, decorative paving, electronic media, and a whole variety of other ideas. In terms of parks and plazas, the highlights of the design directions that we heard were in terms of this major urban square located here in the south part of the project, the design direction for that square is suggested it should reflect the historic character of the neighborhood because it actually borders historic properties. Elements within that square should include trees, spaces for small events and gatherings, spaces to rest, and the provision of perhaps water features. It was also identified that perhaps some spaces, because we are such a maker society, that opportunities for pop-up type of craft venues or even integration of such things in the adjacent building should be considered. It was also identified that Granville Square and Ordnance Square should really be considered as one large urban square, and that we should pay attention to the pavers and to the treatment of the streets in this area and how we actually make that a major safe pedestrian crossing zone to get us from this new urban square down to the waterfront. A lot of discussion around the building that is located directly adjacent to the square and how the design of that needs to basically be appropriate in bulk and scale for that square, what the opportunities are for ground level retail or community uses in that building. And most importantly, that building in and of itself could provide a focal terminus for the historic pedestrian Granville Mall, as shown here. So either the building itself or a cut-through of that building to allow for the adjacent building to provide that terminus. So all great ideas coming forward, and I can say that that's already influencing our discussions around that particular building. The pocket park here in the center has been identified as a great vantage point along the multi-use trail, basically for great views out to the harbor. And some ideas around the northern park, known as Poplar Park, really centered on the idea of community gardens, greenhouses, a naturalized landscape, and maybe educational opportunities there related to ecosystems, the water treatment plant itself, sewage treatment plant I should call it, and the district energy system that's going to be associated with that. Trails, greenways, and the waterfront. Some of the major ideas there were, again, coming back in this session, a lot of conversation about how do we make those connections to the waterfront through wayfinding, maybe some contemporary interpretation of historic gateways, and I think that's a conversation that we need to have and work very quickly with the waterfront people. Recognizing that the east-west movements in this particular area are quite challenging because of the grades, how do we deal with that? And also along the trails and the greenways, have a variety of sensory experiences and activities, such as learning activities, arts and murals, edible landscaping. Streetscape features and gateways. Highlights here, one of the major ideas was that the intersection of Cogswell Street and Barrington Street really came forward as it being the heart of the district. And because of that, we should pay particular attention to the designs of the buildings in those areas, their relationship to the street, perhaps some ideas around some small plazas based on building setbacks, some unique streetscape elements there. Maybe that should even be a scramble intersection. The roundabout here in this location was recognized as a predominant gateway and could be space for a marker or public art. As well, all of the sidewalks and greenways here, a variety of street trees should be provided. I actually have 20 minutes. Gosh. Where over 270 street trees are actually being planned as part of the project. So I just have a couple more slides. Building design. Of all the sessions, this is the one that generated the most amount of interesting dialogue as well as controversial dialogue. Some of the key ideas was that within this area, we really need to pay attention to the surroundings with respect to the designs of the buildings. The southern end should integrate with the heritage nature of that particular part of the development. The center part is an opportunity for lots of interesting articulation and details at the lower ground floors, varying street faces, and active frontages and as well. It was even suggested here that maybe this is the location for an iconic tower design. And in the north, the design should integrate and relate to and blend into the northern part of the development. Other ideas that were discussed, affordable housing, for example, interim uses on the vacant lands. I won't go through the entire list, but there were lots of additional items beyond just the public space conversation that we had. So in fact, there was over 100 ideas provided to us through this process on public spaces, and over 50 ideas provided to us on building design. So the process was very exciting. We're very pleased with that level of engagement, and we think we can really move forward with that input to ensure that this is the people's plan for this new district. And we're now going to be working with our designer, WSP, as well as GEL, to make sure that we can include as many of these ideas, and we think many of them can be, if not most of them can be, included in the 90% design. So in terms of next steps, and final slide, our goal is now to work towards the completion of the 90% design based on the input we received from the public, take that back to council for their review, and then based on their direction, move forward to engage a constructor and look forward to the demolition and ultimate construction of the new neighborhood. Thank you.